Now you have your background here, long skinny background. Okay, so much longer than our stage area. And what we're going to do is make sure these layers are unlocked. Then drag a selection around over the whole lot. So I've selected everything on all three layers. Then we're going to modify, convert to symbol. And let's just call this scrolling backdrop 1. Yeah, so make sure the layers are unlocked so everything on all layers gets into the symbol. So you see a blue box around the whole lot. And you'll notice here it's taken it off the layer, the other layers, because the symbol it can only sit on one layer, so those other layers are now empty. I'm just going to delete them and just keep the one layer now, which I'm going to just label backdrop so it makes sense. Background. So in your library now, we should see the background and you should see the helicopter. Both should be in there now. Yep. All right. Let's go and put some animation on the helicopter now. This is where we can be as detailed as we like. Yep. So double click on the helicopter. This will take us back to the helicopter layer symbol. So this first layer that we have here, and if you look at the middle bar to remember where you are, so here's the scene, and then within the scene is the helicopter, and that's what we're looking at now. So let's label this layer here just body. We'll call it the body of the helicopter. And what I'm going to do is lock that layer. Okay, so that's locked, so we don't have to worry about messing with it now. Okay, so we're just going to leave that there as a locked layer. I've just made mine transparent just to make it clear that that's a different layer now. And we're going to go new layer. Okay, so we've got a new layer. Okay, so this is going to be called top rotor, as in the rotor blade. Okay, and we're going to draw this at the top here. Pretty simple shape. You can do a different design if you like. Okay, so now just select the rotor blade. So draw a box around it to select it. And modify, convert to symbol. And we can call it the same, top rotor. Yeah. Now, next step is very important. Double click on the rotor here or you can double click on in the library, either's fine. Now, look at what's happening in this middle bar here. There's scene 1, then there's helicopter, then there's rotor. So we are inside the rotor timeline now, which is within the helicopter, which is within scene 1. Okay, so we're inside the symbol inside the symbol. What we're going to do is add a bit of animation now to our rotor. Okay, so we're inside the rotor here, and you can do pretty basic kind of animation with something fast that's spinning like this. I'm going to just tap F6, and I'm just going to make some changes to it. So I'm going to grab the whole lot and flip it. And I'm going to also squash it in a bit.
How do you get that box? I don't know.
Just the free transform tool. Third one down. I'm just scrubbing between the frames to see what that looks like. Because it goes so fast, you actually don't want to animate too much of it, because you want it to have only a few frames and run really, really quick, and it just look like a blur kind of. What I'm going to do is tap F6 one more time, and I'm just going to add some little speed marks here. So go back to the helicopter now. So in the middle bar here, click back and go into the helicopter. Okay, so now if you look at the bar, scene 1 and helicopter, and you've got your layers here again, you've got your body and you've got your top rotor. Okay, now let's lock that off so we don't mess with it, and create another new layer, and this can be the back rotor. Next step, as you said, modify, convert to symbol. Yeah. And then let's call it back rotor. It should pop up in your library. Yep. And then go double click on it. So now scene 1, helicopter and back rotor. So tap F6, and I'm going to turn it like quite a lot. F6, turn it. So it's going to look like that. And let's put some little speed lines in as well. Different ones. Okay, good. Yeah, all right. So back to the helicopter again. So it's same step, so let's lock that. So these layers are all locked and I made them transparent. Let's go and grab yet another layer. And this one is going to be called bubble. Bubble. Or cockpit, or whatever it's called on a helicopter. select it, modify, convert to symbol. Bubble. And it's in your library. So all the parts are in your library now. Now, depends how detailed you want to go here. I'm going to double click on the bubble and I'm going to make this a symbol within the symbol of the bubble. Okay, so this is where it gets a bit complicated. So keep looking at this middle bar to help orientate where you are. So scene 1, helicopter, and we're in the timeline of the bubble, right? What I'm going to do though is select this bubble and I'm going to turn it in again to a symbol. Modify, convert to symbol, but so I don't get confused because we already have a bubble symbol which we're actually inside now and making another symbol of that same shape. We're going to call this glass, as in windshield glass. So that is now a symbol within it, but they look exactly the same even though one's inside the other. What we're going to do with this one is we're just going to save this layer as glass. We're going to lock it and we're going to create a new layer here called pilot. And let's just make this one, the glass one, transparent so we can see what we're doing. So we're going to work on the pilot layer now. And then we can draw a pilot inside. Okay, what we're going to do is go back out to the helicopter. So click here to go back out to the helicopter. So you should see them both sitting in there within the bubble symbol now. Yeah.
Whatever we draw in the glass symbol, we don't need to convert it to a symbol again.
We did to the glass, but we
Yeah.
didn't to the pilot.
Yes,
didn't do it there.
what we draw as a pilot in the glass symbol, we don't need to convert it anymore. It is a symbol already.
Yeah, that's right. It's all within that symbol. If you wanted to do some movement on the pilot, you might then make that as a symbol as well. But we'll look at doing that maybe after, so we don't get too complicated. Okay, so what we want to do in the helicopter here is just give it some time to play out this animation. So I reckon give it about 4 seconds, so go to the 48th frame. And just on each layer, tap F6 just so that you have some duration and you have the whole thing happening here.
48.
Yeah, it actually doesn't matter. You can choose any number. I just guessed 4 seconds.
just for the helicopter scene.
Yeah. Okay, so now we can go back to scene 1. So we're going to go all the way back again. We should see our background if we go back to scene 1.
Oh, sorry.
Grab a new layer. And this is where we're going to actually put the helicopter on. So let's call it helicopter. So we should have one layer with the background, which has our long symbol that we made. And we have a helicopter on top of that. So now all you have to do, go to the library and you should see the helicopter in the library, the whole thing. Drag it and put it onto the timeline. You might want to make it a little smaller. Put mine up a bit higher. Yeah, so let's just tween the helicopter a little bit, just drifting up and down. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll just lock that background. Helicopter, let's go to frame, say 24. Put a keyframe in. Don't worry about the background for now. At this keyframe, so this is like what we did with the ball, right? We're going to move it down a little bit. Not much.
We move it down to the destination.
No, just move it down just a little bit. And then we go to the 48th frame. Tap F6 again. And move it back up again.
I'm sorry. I don't know how to make the helicopter go smaller.
Oh, just use the free transform tool. Third one down. Select it, and you get to shrink it how you want it.
And it's not going to deform? It's going to shrink?
If you hold Shift, it will do it proportionally.
Thank you.
So then we're going to do is set up tweens with this. So create classic tween and create classic tween. So now my helicopter just goes up and down.
Where do we press with the tween?
So right click in the middle area between keyframes and go create classic tween.
In both keyframes.
Both gaps that you've made. So one is the tween going down, one is the tween going up. If you can roughly line up, so when the helicopter comes up again, it's good if it can be close to where it was in the first keyframe. So it'll just look, looks close, yeah. All right, good. Now we're ready to tween our backdrop. So let's go back to the first frame. And what we want to do, like we did with the walking one, we want to start our, I'm just going to unlock the background, lock the helicopter. We want to start it so it is right at the beginning of our backdrop, like that. That's going to be our first frame. Yeah, so now just go to, it depends how long you want your animation to be. I'm going to make mine longer than those 48 frames. Tap F6.
How long are you doing it?
130 frames, which is like 8 or 9 seconds. I'm going to move it all the way to the end.
What frame number is the last one?
I just put mine 130, but you can just choose however long you want your animation to go for. Then I'm going to create classic tween. and it's going to make it go along. Now my helicopter disappeared because I still haven't got the same amount of duration up here. So I'm just going to do a little bit more tweening with my helicopter.
Where do we press?
So
What is the gap here? So do I tweak it here? Or do I put it here?
for the helicopter,
Yeah.
yeah, just put a tween in there. So create classic tween. Oh, you had yours. I didn't realise you had it sitting outside the stage area. So, see how mine, it's always inside the stage. It's the background that moves. So mine just goes, this is the stage here, I'll just make this background.
Oh, you're making the background bit.
Yeah. Alright, who's ready to test their helicopter? Command return. Command return. Here we go. Yay. It's supposed to loop. I don't know if it really does or not. Oh, no, it's a jump. So that movement up and down the helicopter was just so, it feels like it has that bit of drift up and down. It's not perfectly static in the same position. But you could probably achieve that by making the background slightly go up and down as well. Now, let's put an effect on the glass. So I think we have our bubble here. Double click on it. So now we're inside the bubble symbol. I'm just going to lock the pilot for the moment. I don't need to do anything with the pilot yet. I'm going to work on the glass, okay? Because the glass is a symbol. We made it into a symbol, right? If you select a symbol on the stage and then you go to properties, you'll see a few specs here that you can play with, and there's one called color effect. So you've got to make sure that you've selected the symbol to be able to see these in the properties window. So color effect, and what you can do is where it says style, you can change it to alpha. And there's a slider here which will change the transparency, which will work nicely for this glass. So I'm going to take my transparency down to 25, the alpha. And what I'm going to do over here, because I've got my my glass underneath my pilot at the moment, but now that it's transparent, I'm going to put the glass on top of the pilot. So move it up on the top of the stack, and now they're behind the glass. But the glass is transparent, so we can see them through. Yeah? Alright, so what we're going to do, guys, is give the same treatment to our rotor blades. So they're a little transparent, and it'll make it look like they're going a bit faster. So let's go back to the helicopter.
And symbols, right?
No, the helicopter symbol. So back one step to the helicopter symbol. Yeah. Now, what we want to do is we're going to select the top rotor. So I'm just going to unlock that. Select it here. Then click on it. Just like you did. So it's a symbol. You select it. And over here in properties, you should get color effect. Style. Change to alpha. Now because I've got two keyframes on here, I have to actually do it to both because it's going to think what I want to do is actually tween between transparent and non-transparent, but that's actually not what I want to do. I want them just to stay transparent the whole time. So I click on that and then alpha. Yeah, so now it's got that little bit of transparency. When you finish with that, lock it and then work on your back one as well. And follow those same steps. Okay, so let's go back to the scene now. And you should see there's a bit of transparency on it. In the bubble and in the rotor and back rotor. And I'm going to go Command Return to play. Publish. And so it's just added that little bit of transparency to those blades, which kind of, you know, makes it look like they're going really fast. And yeah, it's kind of got that nice glass bubble effect as well. The other ones you might like to experiment with the other effects. Let's just play with them. They're not necessarily appropriate for the helicopter tutorial, but if we go to our helicopter again, and let's just have a play with some of the other ones. So click on it. I'm just going to add something that we can. I'm going to create a new layer just in the helicopter just to show something might be of use. I'm going to show how we could do a light. It's like a yellow color. So I'll do a bigger one. Like a searchlight. This is for our night scene. I'll just name this layer light. And I'm just going to go modify, convert to symbol. Light. So it should show up in my library as well. There's my light. And I'll just give you a second to do that. Now, I'm going to select it, go to the properties, just like we did for the other one, color effect, alpha, it's going to make it a little transparent, 50%. Then I'm going to go down. This is where I can show you some of the other ones. So it says filters. We're going to add a filter, so go to the little plus button. And we're going to add a glow. And then you've got some specs for the glow here. I'll change the color. I didn't ask for that. So kind of the glow helps it to kind of bleed out and diffuse it. And you can choose the amount of pixels and the amount of glow that you want. And the color. Yeah.
I can choose any filter. This is on filters, right?
Yeah, filters.
So I can choose any.
There's a little plus. Yeah. Okay, so there's my little glow. I'm going to go back to my scene and just see what that looks like. It really needs to be a night scene now, doesn't it? Why don't I change it? I'm going to go into my background. Scrolling backdrop. I'm going to turn it into a dark blue. There we go, just change my background color. Go back to the scene again. Now it's a night scene. Searchlight. Now what I'm going to do is just get back to my helicopter and give the light a bit of animation. So what I'm going to do is, because the light is a symbol, so it's really easy to animate, I'm going to I have to just do one thing, and that is move the anchor point. So when I select it, this little dot in the middle here, I need that anchor point to be where the light comes out, so I can rotate it on that point rather than just rotate around on the middle. So if I select the free transform tool, the third one down here, and then grab the middle anchor point and put it over here on the headlight. And now if you see, it will rotate on that. Because when it was over here in the middle, it rotates around on itself. It's not what I want. So back to that. And I'm just going to give it some basic movement. So I'm going to put in a keyframe at the end, and I'm going to put a keyframe in the middle. So the middle between the two keyframes. I'm going to move it, I'm going to rotate it up on that middle keyframe. And because that keyframe was back where it was before, then it goes up, and then the last one, it goes down. So then I can put my classic tweens in. So create classic tween, create classic tween, and now it'll animate up and down.
Sorry, do you do
Yeah.
that on the scene or on the helicopter?
On the helicopter.
Scene. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's just go back to the scene and see what that looks like. Yeah.
I didn't get the last bit.
Okay, so